All right, so let's do this study guide for quiz 7. And looking at number 1 here. Let's see, identify the choice that best completes the statement. Which choice shows a true conditional? All right, that's the key to this right here, guys, is this true conditional. Because if this conditional statement isn't true, you're not going to use that answer. So let's start by reading the conditionals. Yesterday was Monday if tomorrow is Thursday. Is that true? Yesterday was Monday if tomorrow is Tuesday. That's not true. So we're not going to use answer choice A. We're not going to read any of the rest of it. Answer choice B, if tomorrow is Thursday, then yesterday was Tuesday. Can that be true? Tomorrow is Thursday, yesterday was Tuesday, that means it's Wednesday. That can be true. Answer choice C, if tomorrow is Thursday, then yesterday was Tuesday. That can be true. And then answer choice D, yesterday was Tuesday if tomorrow is Thursday. All right, so these three are possibilities. So now, with the hypothesis and conclusion identified correctly, the hypothesis follows the if. The conclusion follows the then. This is our P, this is our Q. So, hypothesis, yesterday was Tuesday. That doesn't work, does it? Because yesterday was Tuesday follows the then. Answer choice C, hypothesis, yesterday was Tuesday. Yesterday was Tuesday follows the then, so this doesn't work. All right, let's check D all the way through. Hypothesis, tomorrow is Thursday. Okay, it follows the if. Conclusion, yesterday was Tuesday. All right, so yesterday was Tuesday. Now remember, when these things are out of if-then order, whatever follows the if is still the hypothesis. So in this case, if tomorrow is Thursday, here's the hypothesis. Tomorrow is Thursday. That is the hypothesis. The rest of the statement is the conclusion, which is the yesterday was Tuesday. All right, so let's look at number 2. All right, number 2 asks, what is a counterexample for the conjecture? The conjecture is any number that is divisible by 4 is also divisible by 8. So what we're going to do here is we're going to list the numbers that are divisible by 4. So 4 goes into 4 evenly. It goes into 8 evenly. 12, 16, 20. I mean, there's the first 5 multiples of 4. But this statement says is also divisible by 8. Well, 4 isn't divisible by 8, is it? 8 doesn't go into 4 evenly. 8 doesn't go into 12 evenly. So 4 is an example. 12 is a counterexample. 20 is a counterexample. Any of those 3 are a counterexample. All right? Remember, a counterexample is just an example of something showing the statement to be false. Number 3, what is the conclusion of the following conditional? Hypothesis, conclusion. The conclusion follows the then. So this statement, a number is divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits of the number is divisible by 3. So here's our if, and here's what follows the if. Let's see if this highlighter works. Actually, here's what follows the if. The sum of the digits of the number is divisible by 3. That makes the conclusion the rest of the statement. a number is divisible by 3. All right, problem number 4, you're asked to identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of the conditional statement. The hypothesis follows the if. Hypothesis follows the if. If two lines intersect at right angles, here's your hypothesis. Two lines intersect at right angles. Conclusion is what follows the then. Or, like the previous problem, it's the part of the sentence that's not after the if. So then the two lines are perpendicular. So here's our hypothesis, our P. Here's our conclusion, our Q. What follows the if is the hypothesis. What follows the then is the conclusion. All right, problem number 5 kind of goes back to that vocabulary from last week. Another name for an if-then statement is a conditional. Every conditional has two parts. The part following the if is the hypothesis. And the part following the then is the conclusion. Problem number 6. Write this statement as a conditional in if-then form. All triangles have 3 sides. So we're going to say if a polygon, or you could say shape, or you could say figure. If a figure is a triangle, then it has 3 sides. If a figure is a triangle, then it has 3 sides. All right, in problem number 7, what is the converse of the following conditional? And hopefully you spent some time on those symbols. The conditional is P arrow Q. The converse is Q arrow P, right? Converse is when we switch the hypothesis and the conclusion of the original conditional. So what follows the then is the conclusion. Its coordinates are positive. So we need to make that our hypothesis. If a point is in the first quadrant, then its coordinates are positive. So what we're going to say is that if a point has positive coordinates, then it is in the first quadrant. And that reverts back to coordinate planes. And I hope you remember that in a coordinate plane, of course, we have an X and a Y axis. Quadrant number 1 is in the upper right-hand corner. Then we go counterclockwise. So quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. All right, so a couple review problems here. What is the value of X? These angles are formed by two intersecting lines. Their relationship is that they are vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. So our 7x minus 8 is equal to 6x plus 11. We can subtract 6x from each side. So x minus 8 is equal to 11. And then add 8 to each side. And we get an x equal to 19. Problem number 9. We have angles formed by two intersecting lines. These angles are opposite of each other. So they are vertical angles. They are congruent to each other. So this 3x minus 10 is equal to 149. We add 10 to each side. So 3x is equal to 149 plus 10 is 159. And then divide both sides by 3. And our x equals 53. All right, in problem number 10, we've got to solve for x and y. So again, we've got two intersecting lines. We've got a pair of vertical angles. So we're going to use this rule first. We're going to use our 7x plus 7 is equal to 112. So subtract 7 from each side. And 7x equals 105. Divide both sides by 7. And x equals 15. So now we've got an x that's equal to 15. Does everybody see in the diagram? Let's look at this line right here. This diagonal line, the highlighted line, it's a straight line. So the sum of these two angles is what? 180. So 4y and 112, those are called a linear pair. And the sum of a linear pair of angles is 180 degrees. So we set up 4y plus 112 is equal to 180. Subtract 112 from each side. So 4y is equal to 68. And then divide each side by 4. And y is equal to 17. So here's our x, here's our y. All right, and number 11. What are the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of the following true conditional? What are the truth values of each? If the statement is false, give a counterexample. So we've got a conditional here. Two angles that have the same measure are congruent. So remember, a conditional, P then Q. Converse, if Q then P. Inverse, if not P then not Q. And the contrapositive, if not Q then not P. So I'm going to take this conditional and I'm going to take this statement and I'm going to write it as an if then statement. So I'm going to say if two angles have the same measure, then they are congruent. I'm going to now highlight my hypothesis and I'm going to highlight the conclusion. So now I'm just going to go right down this table that we covered the other day. And my converse. If conclusion, if two angles are congruent, then they have the same measure. All right, we switched the hypothesis and the conclusion. What are the truth values of each? This is true. We need the inverse. The inverse is when we negate the original hypothesis and we negate the original conclusion. So we're going to say if two angles do not have the same measure, then they are not congruent. If two angles do not have the same measure, then they are not congruent. That's true as well. All right, and finally our contrapositive. In our contrapositive, we negate the converse. All right, so I'm going to go back to my converse statement, and I'm going to negate it. So if two angles are not congruent, then they do not have the same measure. And that is also true. All right, so again, the easiest thing for you to do is to memorize this little table right here. It's pretty simple and it shouldn't take you very long at all to get that memorized. All right, so does anybody have any questions on your study guide for quiz 7? All right then.